Welcome to Moyna Bass Fishers. I'm Jim Moyna, and this is just a quick preview of the 2023 MLF Tacklewarehouse Invitational Tournament on the Potomac River, and also a little bit of reminiscing, going back in time, and remembering some things about the Potomac. Because me and the Potomac River have history. We have some bitter, ugly history. But on the other hand, we also have some history of some good stuff. Very dramatic moments in my career have happened at this tournament. Let's go back, all the way back to 1997. My very first tournament on the Bassmaster Top 100, which has been replaced by the Elites, but back then it was called the Top 100s, and it was the top level for Bassmaster. Very first tournament. They call my boat number. I take off, pull up to my first spot, pull out a jig, flip the jig into some spatterdock pads. First flip, hook a fish. It's over 5 pounds, easy. I go to swing it into the boat. It comes off halfway through the air, hits the side of the boat, and is gone. I go on to miss making a check in that tournament by that much. And at the end of the year, when it came time to tally the points for the Bassmaster Classic qualifiers, I was the first man out by just a point or two. That 5 pound fish, that first bite ever in my career at that top level of Bassmaster, that first bite that got away cost me the Classic. Ouch. Ouch. That moment still lives, still burns in my memory. And I have a bad memory. But that memory haunts me. Dang it. So, anyhow, fast forward. Okay. I've had some good memories. There was 1 year on the FLW out here, day 2, or I think it was day 2. I mean, I had like 20 pounds. That was an awesome day. I ended up finishing just out of the cut because my first day was kind of pissy poor. So, but had the big comeback second day, had almost 20 pounds, and just missed the cut to move on. I think that was a top 10. I think it was a top 10 cut, and I was like 11th or 12th. Just missed it. But that was a nice memory. But then, I guess, the worst memory I've ever had, probably the most dramatic moment of any tournament I've ever had. I had made the cut. It was day 3, and it was 11 o'clock in the afternoon when I had a limit. I had a bobber in one of them, a culling bobber in one of the fish, and the other four fish were all unmarked. The one I had the bobber in was my smallest one. The other 4 were bigger, but not big, but decent fish. They were all close to the same size. And this is back when we had co-anglers. So my co-angler, he catches a fish, and right at this moment, we have camera people crawling into the boat to cover the action, to get an update on how I'm doing and see what's going on. So right as my co-angler's bringing this fish in, cameramen are coming into the boat, and in the commotion of this all happening, my co-angler inadvertently unhooks his fish and throws his fish in with my fish. And that's immediately a problem. His fish is in no way significantly, his fish is right in that same class size as my fish, okay? So it's not like he's got a super tiny one. It's not like he's got a super big one. It's right in the same size. And he didn't put a culling bobber in it, because at that time, there was not a rule to put a culling bobber in your fish for a coangler. So now we have a dilemma, we have an issue, we have a problem. We now have 6 fish in my live well, one of which has my bobber in it, which is my smallest fish. 4 of those fish are mine, one is my coangler's. We don't know whose is who out of those unmarked fish. We don't know. So, it's time to call Bill Taylor, tournament director, because whatever the outcome, it's what we got to deal with, but we cannot just continue with the way it is. So we call Bill Taylor, and he uttered the words I was afraid of. He instructed me to release all the fish in my live well except any fish I had marked. And it's 11 o'clock. We got to do, our check-in is like, I don't know, 2 or 2:30. So that's what we do. We release all the fish except for my one fish. And now I'm basically starting almost over. And it's a moment that it's really, how did I feel? Yeah, I was upset and I was frustrated. I can understand the ruling. I can understand why that would be the issue, because I would not want to weigh in somebody else's fish. I want to weigh in the fish I caught. I mean, we could have guessed, like, these are all about the same. Let's just guess, let's just randomly take one of these 5 and put it in the, and say this is the one the co-angler caught. It would have been a random guess. Were all 5 of those fish exactly the same size? No, there was ounces different. They all fell within about 1/3 of a pound of each other, within 1/2 a pound of each other, maybe. Something like that, but I don't know what ranking that co-angler's fish was. I don't know. The co-angler didn't know either. There was no differentiating markings, so they all had to go back. And I could understand why. And I wouldn't feel good. If I was to go on to win the tournament, I would not have felt right about winning that tournament, especially if it was a narrow win of ounces, because it may have been that co-angler's fish could have been the biggest one in that live well at that moment. It could have been. We don't know, because they're very similar in size. We didn't take them all out and compare them before he threw it in there. He just threw it in there in the commotion of cameras jumping in the boat and this and that. So yeah, I'm upset. I'm aggravated. I'm frustrated. Am I bitching anybody out? Am I screaming at people? No. Because I have a job to do. And my job now is to catch 4 more fish. At least 4 more. And that's what I did. I caught exactly 4 more fish that day, 2 of which were over 4 pounds, thankfully. So I weighed in a decent bag of like 14 to 15 pounds, and I qualified for the last day, thankfully. And it was a cumulative weight tournament. So I qualified for the last day. I went on to catch a decent limit the last day. It wasn't big enough though, and I finished, I think, 3rd place. Maybe 3rd. Maybe 4th, but I'm pretty sure 3rd. I remember Scott Martin won the tournament. David Dudley, I think, was 2nd, and I think I was 3rd. But I was literally just right there behind those 2. And had I not have to make those calls, had I not had to throw those fish out that 3rd day, was that the difference for me to win? It may have been. It just may have been. Because on that day 3, like I said, I caught 4 more fish to add to the 1 bobber fish. For sure, that bobber fish would have been called out. And then I'm pretty sure a couple of them fish that I had to throw back would have been bigger than two of my four fish that I caught the rest of the day. Like I said, I had two 4-pounders, okay, that I caught in the last couple hours of that day. But two of them fish were kind of smallish. They were bigger. They were bigger than the bobber fish slightly, but they were smallish. And I know a couple of those fish were big. I know a couple of these would have been called out. Okay, like that bobber fish for sure would have been gone, and then maybe one more or even two more of those fish would have been gone. So I would have the four. So possibly I could have weighed the two 4-pounders I caught late in the day, and then three of them fish that I threw back all might have been bigger than the three that I weighed. And literally I lost by like less than a half a pound. I'm pretty sure that's what the difference was. I can't remember exactly, but I had my chances on the fourth day to win that tournament. It was, and by chances I mean I had some really big fish hooked up that just got away. And that kind of adds to the, it's like, seriously, I had like two, for sure two, and I think it was three big ones hooked up. I'll never forget one of them. I flipped a jig into this milfoil, and it was right in an area where I'd been catching some key bites. And felt the bite, set the hook, and it was just like, it was a major tug of war, and the boil, massive boil on the surface, and it just came unhooked. Yeah, sure, it could have been a snakehead, whatever, but it was right in a patch, right in an area where I'd been catching some big fish. So, I don't know. And then I lost two other big ones that day. Dang it. And to finish third place was, it's nice to finish third, but under the circumstances that I finished third, really nothing. First is where I could have been easily. Did I shout? Did I scream at anybody even after it was all said and done? No. You just deal with your adversity, deal with what comes your way. Talk about the woulda, coulda, shouldas, whatever. But in the end, just deal with it and move on. And that's what I did. The co-angler, to this day, I have no ill feelings about it. I actually had drawn him in previous tournaments, and he always gave me my space. He made sure he wasn't casting over my lines. So I'm not going to persecute a man for a simple, just, just for a mistake. It was an honest mistake, whatever. I got no ill feelings towards the man. One more point on that little story. They did make a rule for the next season saying co-anglers have to put calling bobbers or some kind of calling. They got to mark their fish with some kind of calling tag going forward. So that is, in essence, the Jim Moyner rule. But I've had here's another dramatic experience. I've had some good drama on the Potomac. This was a couple years later out here, and the Potomac was the last tournament on the schedule, and I needed a good finish to make the championship, and a good finish, and then a great finish or a good finish, to make the top 10, whatever. So anyways, this was your Clark Wendlandt one. So I literally had like 5 minutes left to fish. And, before I run in. So I had 5 minutes left of fishing before I run in. And I'm pulling into this area. I picked my last place. I pull in and a guy's pulling out. So I'm like, oh, great. This guy just fished here. anyways, whatever. I don't have any time to make a game plan change, whatever. And I pull out a popper. And, well, first I start throwing a jig. Nothing. I might have had more. I might have had like 7 or 8 minutes because I had enough time to fish for like 3 or 4 minutes with a jig and then switch over to the popper. So I switch over to the popper, first cast, 4.5 pounder. And I had a limit. And my limit was, to me, like a borderline limit that would make me into the championship or not. I mean, it would put me right into that zone where I'd be a few points above the cut line for the championship or a few points below. So now I caught this 4.5 pounder, and now I know I've got the points for the championship. And but I'm still, but at the same time I know that I'm not going to make the cut. So I get that fish in the live well. It's my biggest fish of the day. Call out a smaller one. Stand up, grab my popper, make a second cast. Another 4+ pound bass. Back-to-back cast. So I throw that one in the live well. Just grab one of the small ones, throw that out. Don't make another cast. Get back with like 30 seconds left. And make the top 10 to qualify for the days 3 and 4. So that was freaking sweet memory. Awesome sweet memory. That's one of my greatest last couple minutes catches of my entire career. I mean, there's others that come to mind, but I don't know if they're any better than that. That was just 2 back-to-back 4+ pounders in a year. That was a year when 4-pounders were really hard to come by for whatever reason. I mean, it was hard to get to 15 pounds that year. There's a lot of 10, 11 pound bags, but for whatever reason that year, 4-pounders were rare. And I just put 2 in the boat in the last few minutes of the tournament, of the tournament day. So that was a good memory. And then, there's just, there was another year where, I don't know, there's just some good catches. But this video's gone on long enough, or not, has it? Anyways, I haven't really talked about this year's Potomac. All right, this year, this is the 5th tournament of our series in the Tacklewarehouse Invitationals. Obviously, now that I'm here, this is Maryland out the back door here. I'm excited. It's always hard to leave Minnesota in the summertime. It's always hard. I've always struggled with that because there ain't no better place to be than Minnesota in June, July, August, September. So, but here I am. It was a long drive through lots of sticky traffic. Crazy, dude. Chicago. What in the world are people doing out at 11:30 p.m., midnight? What are the people in Chicago doing? It was like bumper-to-bumper traffic, 6-7 lanes wide, going 10 miles an hour for big stretches. I don't get it. What are these people in Chicago doing that they have to go out at 11:30 at night? It was a Saturday night, so some of them were probably out partying up. But do you have to drive? Do you have to get on the freeway to drive across town to do it? Can't you just go to your local pool hall, grab a beer there, and shoot some pool, just down the street? I don't know. I really don't know. It was just crazy traffic. And then, of course, when you get close to the traffic for Washington, D.C. area starts like about 70 miles away. And that was its own. I mean, it's brutal to come through Chicago and then have to drive through Washington, D.C. All the way in between there is nothing but tollway, and that was all pretty good. There was no major accidents slowing me down, no crazy drivers. So, but anyways, I'm here. I'm excited to get out there now. When I left, I wasn't that excited because I hate leaving Minnesota, but once I get here, I'm like, all right, I'm here. The worst part of the whole dang trip's over, and now it's just gravy fishing. And so I'm excited. And it's Potomac, and I've got history, I've got drama here. This is going to be fun. And I still have a chance to make the Bass Pro Tour. I got to be top 8 in the Angler of the Year points. I'm currently 20th. I just did a video on that whole Angler of the Year point standings thing. I realized I have a better chance than what I thought. It's still a slim chance, but it's better than coming into it. I thought I had to win both, but realistically, I got to put 2 top 10s together here. Or in the last 2, top 10 at Potomac, which I've done, I've done on more than one occasion. And then a top 10 on the upper Mississippi in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is right across the street from Minnesota. I love it. So really, I'm in position to make a run. And that's what I'm going to do, everything I can to do that. That's what it's all about. Bass Pro Tour, that dream is not dead for this year. So the excitement is here. It's real. And let's get it done. I will be checking in with you guys throughout the week of practice and during the tournament. That's enough for now. Over.